This is often seen as despairing of an inevitable ending to life, but does it have to be that way? Epic music in the background is getting me pumped, and there's a sense of adventure rather than dread. Feels like I'm doing something great. Fight between the Crow Fodder and the Horseman, it feels like more than just the first boss encounter, as it's filled with symbolism. Death could truly end war, yet it's Death who has to seek a way to restore life from the apocalypse. The ultimate irony is that Death is one of the forced horsemen of the apocalypse, fighting against the destruction that they represent. One hell of a beginning filled with world building, epic music, all coming together to make an unforgettable opening. I'm already captivated to experience Death's journey. I'm transported into lush, beautiful forged lands. The art style of Darksiders is both gorgeous and timeless, as it got details but also got contrast. The beautiful soundtrack playing in the background, it feels like I'm on a fantasy adventure. Despite Death's cold nature, due to his role, he does have a sense of humor with sarcasm, which makes the character interesting. And as Death feels incredibly badass, his agility, dual-wield sights, and fluid movement makes the combat feel so fast and powerful. Movesets are stylish and brutal, reinforcing the fantasy of controlling such a legendary figure. I really enjoy the puzzles in Darksiders 2 because they introduce new mechanics that actively test the player. Especially with a satisfying sound that reinforces the sense of accomplishment, which is inspired by the Legend of Zelda series. After the fire dungeon, I met with the makers and they gave a handgun that Death recognizes as redemption. It serves as a piece of foreshadowing, hinting something more personal as significant as it will become important later on. Barret Dungeon is the water dungeon. It looks beautiful with the wonderful atmosphere, and the puzzles are satisfying. It's satisfying to fill the channels to move the gates, and there's few treasures, secret areas that are fun to explore. However, I will say that the level design could have been better, as it could be difficult to traverse. However, I didn't have that many issues, and overall I love the dungeon. I'll skip ahead a bit, but I really like the idea that the Tree of Life isn't treated as the final destination, but rather the true beginning of a journey. As it opens the path to something greater, reinforcing the sense that Death's story is just unfolding. Eventually, Death and Karn explore the Foundry. During many sessions, that shows a bit more signs of caring. Many reasons, but one of the reasons is Karn's brute strength problem solving becomes invaluable to the Reaper. While Death is still cold, at least he shows respect to the makers, even if it doesn't sound like it. Sometime later, the Guardian is summoned and it's corrupted by evil magic. I head out towards the open world section and fight it. The section is very beautiful, but it does feel a bit empty, with not much stuff to do, but I enjoy the view. After the boss fight, Elgard sacrificed himself in order for Death to progress through the Tree of Life. I felt sad seeing him go, as I liked the character. The scenes filled me with emotions as I respected his death and honored him. However, I had to move on. Once I entered the Tree of Life, I encountered Absalom, the first Nephilim. He reveals himself as the avatar of corruption. In that moment, there's a sense that he fears death. Absalom refuses to let go, choosing to instead to embrace the corruption as he wants to bring in the darkness. To Absalom being erased, losing his existence and legacy is far worse than Death himself. It has been building up to this moment. It all makes sense now. The Reaper once slayed his own kind. His own brothers now seeks redemption for those past sins. He frames Death as not just a force of destruction, but a character burdened by guilt and purpose. Remember what I said at the beginning of the video, that Death is seen as the end of life? Well, the game explains that the Reaper doesn't take away life, but guides the souls to the underworld, and they become reborn, continuing the circle of life. This is quite poetic. I can see why Darksiders 2 is often seen as a masterpiece. On the underworld section does feel padded out, especially the section where the player needs to collect 3 souls, and then within the dungeons you need to collect 3 objects and then complete another objective. This makes the game feel like a chore and sluggish than a good expansion. Once the player brings all of the souls to the Dead King, he destroys them. Feels fucking frustrating and invalidates my time. The only thing cool the player gets is the soul splitting, which is an awesome game mechanic, but I'm just gonna skip forward. I found the Earth section to be quite dull, however I'm gonna move forward to the Heaven section. The light is tainted by corruption, but there'll always be light that can shine through the darkness. I eventually met up with the scribe corrupted by the evil magic. I defeated him and cleared his corruption. I headed towards the Archon. Eventually make my way towards the Archon. There's a saying that the brightest light casts the darkest shadow, and the Archon embodies that perfectly. Despite it being a figure of light, that there's something beneath the surface, corrupted. Eventually I head towards hell, and darkness without light is absolute darkness. No direction, no purpose. You could say it's absolutely nothing for anything to exist. Time forward, I meet up with Lilith, who claims to be the mother, and Dad shows remorse for killing his own brothers and explains why he kept the souls. Reaper wants to forgive his own sins. This helps the path of redemption, and now he knows what it's like to live. Moving forward, I'm ready to fight Absalom. He accuses Death of causing the corruption. Whatever the cause is, it's a battle to restore life. After the intense fight with Absalom, it felt great to overcome the challenge. Death decides to restore humanity by forever dooming the Nephilim. Powerful message, through death comes the continuation of life, and making that sacrifice, Death fulfills a role far greater than destruction. He becomes a force of balance and renewal. Ultimately, Death gives himself up to only be restored by war, reinforcing the idea that
Riders shall ever be for.
A poetic conclusion that ties back to the core themes of the story. Darksiders 2 was a Deathinitive experience, a unforgettable journey filled with world building, deep lore, and satisfying gameplay. Well, definitely it had its flaws, they never take away from the experience and what makes the game special. Experience that more people should play, and I'm genuinely excited what the future holds, especially with the 4th game on its horizon.